This is Heaven, one of London's newest and smartest discos. It's situated in the West End, and on some nights, more than 2,000 people come here. But there's one rather surprising aspect about these people. Almost all of them are men. And that's because Heaven is a gay disco, a night spot for homosexual men. Even celebrities like George Melly, who was himself gay until he was 30, drop in to have a look.
I think Heaven seems to be heaven and fills a very necessary gap in London. It's, I think it's marvelous that there is a place where gay people can go and feel uninhibited, unpressured. Everything's nice for them, the lights are amazing. People can do more or less exactly what they want to, or at least can make preparations to do it later. I find it a totally sympathetic atmosphere.
Heaven is just the latest of many gay clubs to open in the West End over the last 10 years. Most of them, though, are for gay men. Gay women don't have nearly as many places to go to. One reason might be that women generally earn less than men, and so have less to spend. But gay women might also prefer different kinds of social meeting places.
Got your card laminated? Yes. You're a lucky man. It's not working.
But gay men have different kinds of meeting places too. Heaven's not the only sort. Tonight we're going to look at some other aspects of the male scene to see some of its contrasts. This is South London. Different parts of London like this have their own gay scenes. Although they're only a small part of the total picture, it's worth looking at some of them because they tell us a great deal about the way gay men have been changing over the last decade.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that nice big hand on my opening. It was very nice of you. Nice.
This is a drag pub, the Royal Vauxhall Tavern. Like Heaven, the Vauxhall isn't exclusively gay. Many straight people do drop in to have a look, but most of the audience are homosexual.
Are you ready, Mr. Mason?
And the Vauxhall is typical of the South London gay scene, which is focused on such pubs.
Kiss me goodnight, Sergeant Major. Tuck me in my little wooden bed. We all love you, Sergeant Major. When we hear you falling, show a leg. Don't forget to wake me in the morning and bring me round a nice hot cup of tea. Woo!
This kind of show is part of a long working-class theatrical tradition. Even in the last century, when music hall first began, drag, or female impersonation, was always part of the bill. Drag soon became respectable theatrical entertainment. These are the Salford Police in 1937. During the Second World War, Forces Reviews took up drag as part of organised entertainment for the troops. These are sailors performing in front of King George VI.
A short time ago, we gave this same show. We were dressed in these shorts and these blouses. As we frolicked about, from a girl came a shout, "Why, look there, old men without trousers!"
We've had a very good show here tonight, and I thank you all very much, and I wish you good night.
Forces reviews were so popular that they continued well into peacetime. Chris Sheen has been doing drag since 1928 and became famous in peacetime Forces reviews.
There was about 4 reviews going out, all male, doing the drag act. There was Forces Showboat, which we was in, and then we got in another show called Misleading Ladies, and behold, who should be in the chorus of doing this was Danny LaRue. And he never spoke a word, he just looked glamorous and all that, and we gave him his first speaking part in the review. And then afterwards he became very famous. Then after that, the show had its run. Then we went into another all-male show, which was Boys Will Be Girls, which we were starring in.
Forces reviews and theatres both started folding in the 1950s, and so drag had to move to pubs and clubs.
Oh, all the male shows and the drag shows were all finished because there was no theatre. They were closing down. The television had hit them very much. They weren't getting the people to come to the theatre. And that's why. And it was very sad. And from then onwards, they had to look for somewhere else to play. And the only thing that was going then was the pubs and clubs.
But drag's always had a special appeal for gay men too.
No, drag's always had a gay following. And the bigger the better, and they're the best audience we can get. We love to see them in the audience. They're our followers and we like them.
Other drag artists agree. These are 3 performers who, between them, have had a lot of experience of the drag scene. Mrs. Shufflewick, Chubby Oates, and Lee Tracy.
There's always been gay people in drag audiences. Gay people love drag because inside every gay person, or 90% of gay person, is a drag act trying to get out.
Until quite recently, though, gays who followed drag were at pains to hide their sexuality.
Just like, you know, to the old drag shows, and I'm talking about, you know, your soldiers in skirts. I mean, because I can't go back as far as you. But
I
mean, they would certainly, like, you know, turn the coat collar up and sort of, you know, slide in a bit sheepish. But now they'd be setting the audience in drag.
Gays who followed drag even invented a secret language called Polari to hide their gayness.
You really needed to be able to talk to someone without the fear of anybody else overhearing a conversation. For instance, if you was in a pub and you fancied a person in that bar, you couldn't turn to your friend and say, "God, Charlie, look at that geezer over there, I fancy putting that." Because you get your black eye straight away. Yeah. But if you said, "Oh, Charlie, Vada the Campomi in the corner with the bone of carts," nobody else knew what you were talking about, but your friend did and you did, and that was as good as...
Yeah, it's like the Victorian underworld slang, isn't it? It's the same sort of thing. It's a way of talking to each other without the ordinary people know what you're on about.
But what was it about drag that gay men found so attractive?
Gay people have always loved dressing up, loved getting into drag.
I don't love dressing up.
I said gay, you're not even happy. Gay people have always loved getting into drag because drag is an expression. It's a way of expressing yourself. If you're repressed, if you...
I'm not repressed.
You will be in a minute. If... You're like a very old Joan Turner sitting there. Sexually repressed people need some sort of outlet, and gay people, and God knows that we're gay, and I couldn't care less. And the reason they like drag is because they can see themselves up there in that frock, in that wig, in that makeup, doing that act, but probably doing it in their own minds better than whoever's performing.
Weedy who's.
They they would like to be a woman. They would like to be wearing glamorous gowns, glamorous wigs. And if you transfer someone from being a man into a woman, then you accentuate the thing. It's always done 10 times larger than life.
Surely Bassett doesn't have this.
Watch for the money she gets, Ross.
There'll always be an England while there's a country lane.
It's obvious then that drag artists, and presumably most gays who follow drag, see gay men as being like women in some way. Why should they have made this connection?
I think until very recently, people were very sure that they knew what real men and real women were. They knew the qualities you should find in a real man: assertiveness, ability to take command, take initiative, to be strong in all circumstances, women to be passive, submissive, to like to be led, to like to be told what to do. And in that schema of things, homosexuals weren't real men or real women. The men had failed to make it as men, and the women had failed to make it as women. So for gay males, what it meant was, whatever they weren't real men. And obviously, if you're not a real man, the next best thing is to be some sort of woman. And you would see that in behaviour. You could see it in camp, of gesture, of the way of sitting, of masses of jewellery at a time when no male wore jewellery, perfume, scent, use perhaps of calling each other she when they spoke to other gay men. They accepted the decision that people had made about them, that they were really some form of woman. And you see it most obviously, of course, in the biggest gay subcultural form of entertainment, which is drag.
A million marching feet, red, white and blue. What does it mean to you? Surely a crowd shouted out loud, Britain's away. The Empire too, we can depend on you. Freedom remains, these are the chains, nothing can break.
I mean, this is the gay scene, and I think they come here and they're able to let themselves go a bit more, and they can see it on the stage. And I think the drag is doing their own thing, really, you know.
If England means as much to you as England means to me.
Because drag is a popular part of straight working-class culture, not all of these people are gay. But it clearly does have a particular gay following. In the 1960s, the social climate in London became more relaxed, and gays started coming out into the open. An open gay social scene soon followed. In a predominantly working-class area like South London, it was natural that its gay scene would feature drag prominently. And indeed, there's little else apart from drag pubs for gay people in South London.
Means to me.
But another aspect of London's gay life is starting to become evident, even in South London. An aspect which appears to be quite the opposite of drag. Brian Derbyshire has been on what's known as the leather scene for several years. We spoke to him in an underground bar where leather men meet.
But I think it's a butch, masculine image that's very overemphasised. It's you know, it's the jacket, the jeans, the tight jeans, the way the guy moves. It's the opposite end to the guys in drag, because you know, they're appealing to one section. The leather guy's appealing because he wants to appear to be big and butch and masculine, which is nice. That's not necessarily to say they always are, by the way. But it's just the fact that they want to stand in the bar. They want to be a fantasy. And if you look at a leather guy in a bar, or you go into any leather bars or leather clubs like this, you can live that fantasy out.
I suppose leather, which is one of the most rapidly growing subcultures, could be seen to be a response to all the questions, all the upheavals about role and gender and sexuality that have been thrown up in the last 15 years. Because in a way, what the image of the leather man is an astonishing, slightly ludicrous sometimes, stereotype of ultra-maleness. It's mean, it's tough, it's unyielding, it doesn't feel. The cap comes down so low you can hardly see the eyes. The whole stance is about masculinity and about a very mean, aggressive personality.
In this West London shop, specialising in clothes and accessories for the leather fan, this aggressive stance is borne out. Many of the items on sale reinforce a fantasy ideal of tough machismo. As part of this aggressive image, some gay men on the leather scene have developed very direct forms of signalling their sexual preferences.
They're usually more open about what they do between the sheets through a very complicated system of keys and different coloured handkerchiefs, depending on what the person does or wants to do. They have a combination of one or more of these, either on the left-hand side if you're active or on the right-hand side if you're passive.
So why are some gay men now adopting a much more masculine and aggressive image than gay men on the drag scene? Over the last 20 years, many traditional ideas about sexuality have been challenged, and one of them is that gay men have to be effeminate.
What's been happening over the last 20 years, of course, is that those stereotyped assumptions about men and women have been breaking down in terms of the way they can behave, the way they can feel, and whether or not they remain real men and real women, even if they do unmasculine and unfeminine things. What that has meant, of course, is that for gay men, it's suddenly become apparent to them, they've begun to realise that there's no reason why they shouldn't be as manly and as male as any straight man.
Brian Derbyshire agrees that leather is a reaction against the traditional image of gay men.
When I was a teenager, the image of gay people was a very camp, outrageous, 14 yards of chiffon, and everyone called each other Beryl and Darling and kissed each other everywhere and wore Woolies false eyelashes. I found the scene very embarrassing for the fact that it was a split thing. You were one thing during the week, and then you had to sort of rush off to Manchester or Liverpool, where all the big clubs were, and become something else. Dash on the train and slap the pan stick on and the Woolies false eyelashes, which, and I actually got to thought to myself, well, if this is it, really, I just don't want to know, because I just got fed up of it after a time. But I'm very embarrassed. It's very embarrassing walking through Manchester with a simulated fur coat over your shoulders and Woolies false eyelashes. So really, you had a choice. If you wanted to get to mix with gay people, you had to become like they were. Otherwise, if I'd have walked down like this in those days, they'd have run a bloody mile. So it was this ultra camp, limp-wristed bit. If there's anything else you wanted, it just wasn't there. It just didn't exist, not at all. And it's only in the last 5 or 6 years, really, that the scene has begun to broaden out, and really only in London. If you go back to the provinces, I mean, I go back to Preston quite a lot, and you see it in Preston. It's a bit like getting a time machine and going back 6 or 7 years.
But even in London, the leather scene is largely confined to the West, areas like Earl's Court and Chelsea. This Earl's Court pub, the Coleherne, is its focal point. So why did the leather scene start here? The explanation is that areas like this are much more open to new influences than, say, traditional working-class areas with more conservative attitudes. This is bedsit land with a large floating population and many foreigners passing through. And leather was really a foreign import. It came to England in the mid-60s from America.
I mean, like this is a Canadian cap. The leather jacket, which is the original one, was the copy of what the cops used to wear in Los Angeles. These are, what I got on now, are just chaps, or what the cowboys used to wear. So it's all originally American orientated.
Leather isn't the only reaction against the old feminine image of gays, though. There are other ways of looking masculine without going to such an extreme.
Of course, you don't have to be either a drag queen or a leather queen. There are plenty of other ways of being a gay man, still recognisably male. And I suppose that one of the fastest growing new looks is the clone look, which came to us by courtesy of New York, and is threatening to take over, which is the little tash and the shirt and the jeans and the boots and a certain look of controlled, mean, innate superiority, which you can see on the floor of any disco that you're unwise enough to enter. Again, I suppose if you're an advocate of that look, you'll see it as utterly to be applauded because it's terribly ordinary. And if you're less happy, you'll see it as a lemming-like drive to total uniformity, which makes you think that gay men apparently come in batches of 100. But what it is, of course, still, is a recognisably male presentation. So it's still back to a way of being gay and male and masculine.
If you're manly, you will be fancied by what your ideal of a man is. And this is what we seem to be after. We all want to be butch, as we put it. I mean, you know, everybody tries to be butch. I mean, when I was young, I wasn't as I am now. I grew a moustache. I tried to look older than I am. And I disregarded femininity completely and tried to be masculine. And it works. I mean, what we're all after is to find somebody to, you know, carry on a relationship is the inevitable point. But basically to find somebody that you want to go to bed with. And being masculine is the only way to do it, in my opinion.
More and more gay men like Tony are adopting masculine images and rejecting effeminate ones. We've been looking at the drag scene and comparing it with more recent developments, such as the leather or the less extreme macho look, to show the reasons why this change in attitudes is taking place. Of course, there are many gay men and women who aren't on the gay scene at all, or who don't fit any of these images. But that doesn't lessen the importance of these developments. They suggest a fundamental change in the way gay men see themselves, and this change may eventually alter other people's attitudes to them too. In the meantime, gays are divided amongst themselves as to whether these developments are a good thing or not.
Drag? What's drag? Like, you know, if you've got a piece of material and you wrap it around yourself in a certain way, it's got to consider drag, but it's all material no matter what way you wear it.
The drag scene within the gays is fun in pubs, as entertainment on the TV, anywhere you like. But as far as scenes go between different guys, we find that the drag queens are the ones that give the rest of us a bad name. We're not into drag queens or camp or effeminate.
I think that if people want to wear leather, they've got a right to wear it because that's the uniform they choose. I choose my own uniform, so does Marilyn.
I think it's really pathetic, like all these really camp queens, like dress up in leather and think they're really butch, but they're not. They're just like trying to hide their gayness.
Well, it's overdone. They're not men. I mean, it's like drag in reverse. They're too heavy. You like leather because you like the image of the bike, the car, the man, which is why you're homosexual. And you suddenly turn around and you've got a freak or a cartoon character, which frankly turns you off.
What I hate is rigidity. What I would like to see is no gay scene, because it would be so natural for people to be gay that they wouldn't feel they had to actually form a scene which is really making a shell around themselves to protect them from the censure of other people. Just as I wish there was no black scene, because I don't think it should make any difference whether you're black or not, I don't think there should be a gay scene. I think there should be gays who are gay and have a lovely time.